Welcome to another episode of Jamming with Jason. Hey, today I've had flags on my mind, so we're going to talk a little bit about flags. And you might be wondering what that has to do with anything, but just listen, you're going to figure it out. Because really, whether you believe it or not, everybody has a little bit of freak, everybody's a little bit weird, everybody's a little bit quirky. Depends on what words you want to use. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about letting your freak flag fly. And you're going to know exactly what that means when you listen to this episode. So let's get started. Hi, I'm Jason Mefford, and you're in the right place to start transforming your career and life with this podcast. I've been in the trenches as an executive leader, and now I'm an executive coach and confidential advisor to executives all over the world. I use a multidisciplinary approach to improve learning that drives transformation by getting to the root cause in a practical, no-nonsense way. I love learning and sharing what makes people tick. You get both education and entertainment, since learning shouldn't be boring, right? But that's enough about me. This podcast is a combination of intuitive leadership, neural influence, and mental mastery to take your career and life to levels you've never thought possible. If you're wanting to improve yourself, develop stronger relationships professionally and personally, make quicker, better decisions, and become a more effective leader, then of course, this podcast is for you, because you are going to learn how to manage emotions in yourself and others, avoid burnout, stress, and anxiety, master your mind, get people to listen and take action, and become a lifelong learner. And when you do that, you will have a positive mental attitude, executive leadership presence, and the skills to know exactly what to say and do in any situation. I'm glad you're here. So, let's get started. All right, everybody. Well, today is one of those where I just kind of hit record and I'm going to babble a little bit, but I promise as you hang around with me, something that I say today is going to be exactly what you need to hear today. So that's kind of the way that I like to run these episodes. There's a lot of different things that you'll be able to take from what we're discussing today. And in fact, what you get today is probably going to be something different than you get when you re-listen to this episode in another month or two. And you might be wondering, why would I want to do that? Well, because again, from the way we learn is actually through repetition. And every time that you read a book again, you watch a movie again, there's different things that you get out of it each time that you do it. And that's kind of the way that I try to set up these podcasts as well, so that they can be a resource that you can go back to and listen to over and over again. Now, I told you at the beginning, I wanted to talk a little bit today about flags. So let's just start talking about flags, and we're going to see where this goes, okay? Now, flags are something that's kind of interesting, okay? And so when you think about the history of flags and the flags that we use, and yes, I'm talking FLAG flags. The what are they made out of? They're made out of cloth of some sort, usually, and kind of the history of them, where they kind of came from. I mean, obviously, they've been used for a long time in things like military campaigns, on putting up on the top of ships and other things like that, because flags have been a way to be able to show other people kind of what you stand for, who you affiliate with. Okay, so from kind of military campaigns, right? In the old days, people would carry flags with them, so that the opposing, the enemy could actually see who they were. People could see who they were when they were coming. And it was kind of the same way, on ships. You could tell from a long distance away, maybe which country a flag that was flying on the ship, you would know, oh, that's a Dutch, or an English ship, because they chose to furl the flag. Got a lot of alliteration going on today, of a particular country. Okay. Now that continues on. I mean, each country typically has their own flag, but we have flags for other things as well. And one thing I notice is I kind of walk around my neighborhood here, when I get up and go out for my morning walk. A lot of the houses in my neighborhood have flags hanging out in front of it. Now, I live in America, so on some houses there is an American flag that is flying in front of that house. Now, that flag tells me a little bit about the person, right? So if somebody's flying an American flag on their house, and we're living in America, so it ain't a surprise, folks, that people are living in America here. But the fact that somebody is flying an American flag shows me something about them, or tells me something about that person, right? The fact that they have an American flag, in front of their house, and let's say it's not on a holiday like Flag Day or Independence Day, but they fly it all year round. I know that that person has a very strong connection or affinity with, and is very patriotic, very proud of being an American. Okay, and let me just divert there for just a second and talk about the American flag, for one thing, because here's something you may not know about the American flag. Right? Is in America here, still in a lot of schools and other places like that, people are very patriotic. Some people are very patriotic, and they put a lot of emphasis into the American flag. You can't burn the flag, you can't, disrespect it. I was taught as a Boy Scout, how to fold the flag properly. You can't ever let it touch the ground, because a lot of people put a lot of respect into it. And in fact, there's a thing that, is still kind of a hot issue. Some schools make children get up once a week or once a day and actually pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I can still remember that because I was one of those kids that was forced to pledge my allegiance to the flag. Now, what's interesting is, do you know where the Pledge of Allegiance actually came from? It didn't come from the government. It actually came from a flag manufacturing company. So it was a brilliant marketing idea. Okay. And the whole idea that they would, get school children to sign these petitions and try to get their schools to have these flags. So every day they would pledge allegiance to the flag. The whole reason for it actually was it was a marketing campaign to sell more flags. Okay. Interesting thing too, that the part in there about under God, that actually was added in the 50s with the whole McCarthy Soviet, Cold War kind of issue and other stuff like that, that actually didn't exist in the original one. So interesting little myth buster. Again, you might believe me, don't believe me, I don't care. Go do your own research, but it's pretty well documented on the internet that that's where it actually comes from. Okay, so you never knew you were going to learn that today, right? All right. So anyway, back to flags, right? So like I said, sometimes I see American flags flying in front of people's homes. In fact, one of the houses in our neighborhood here, I noticed that they done some renovation on it. They repainted the outside, and they put up flags. They put up an American flag, and they also put up another flag that I didn't actually know what this other flag was. But I noticed, I could tell from the cars that were in the driveway. There's usually a Maybach, which, if you know about that, that's a pretty expensive car. Range Rover, BMW, Mercedes. So they have literally like $500,000 worth of cars sitting on their driveway. So I was curious what that other flag was. And so because it was one that I didn't recognize, I've been all over the world. I know, my geography. I'm one of those nerdy people as well that actually kind of, used to memorize the country capitals and everything like that too. But it was a flag that I wasn't familiar with. If it was Germany or Italy or Ireland or some of these other ones, right? I'm very familiar with those flags, but this one I didn't know what it was. But I was curious, right? Because again, if somebody is willing to or puts a flag like that in front of their house, it must mean something to them. And so, the beautiful thing today with the internet is we never have to just wonder. If we're curious, we can just do some research and we can figure it out, right? So I went to a website that showed that shows you a little bit of the freaky and weirdness about me. Okay, that's coming out today, and that's kind of the topic we're discussing. So I went to this website to look up flags of the world and scrolled through. There's about 200 different countries in the world, so it took me a while to kind of scroll through because I was curious to find out where this flag was from. Because I'd never seen the people that live in the house. All I've ever seen is the cars. I actually haven't ever seen them come and go. And found out it's the flag from Sri Lanka, which is a country kind of south of India, off the African coast, that's kind of out there by itself. I flew through Sri Lanka one time, but wasn't familiar with the flag. So now I know a little bit more about those people, right? They're probably, again, immigrants that have come to the United States. They're probably very proud of the fact that they live in America now because they're flying the American flag, but they're also proud of their heritage, that they actually come from Sri Lanka, right? And that's probably where they were born, or at least the parents were born and then immigrated to the United States. So because of the flag that they are flying in front of their house, I learned a little bit about them. And it shows that they're proud, that they open their mouth, that they're willing to share who they are, right? Because a lot of times we're not willing to share who we are. And so this is, one of the things that I wanted to talk about today. When you think about it, everybody in the world is a little bit different, right? We all have had different life experiences. We all like, some of us like some of the same things, some of us like different things, right? So even, let's take sports as an example, right? I happen to like American football. Now, a lot of people in America and all over the world like American football, but some people don't. Some people prefer what the rest of the world calls football, or we call soccer. Some people like tennis. Some people like golf. Some people like curling. Okay, if you don't know what curling is, go look it up. It's actually the second most popular sport in Canada, behind hockey. So if you don't know what curling is, go look that up. Some people like other things. Some people don't even like sports at all, right? They don't understand it. They don't like it. They don't want to watch it. And that's cool, right? It's okay, regardless of what you like. You may be a little different than somebody else, but that's perfectly fine as well, right? Now, kind of getting back to flags. So some of the other flags that I happen to see around my neighborhood is, during the election time, for our president's election a few years ago, between Trump and Biden, our country was very divided. In fact, you could tell there were certain lawn signs that went up, and some people, especially, the Trump supporters, sold a lot of flags. So a lot of those American flags that I would see came down, and Trump flags came up instead. So, again, they were proud that that's who they supported. They wanted to fly that flag and let everybody know that they were a Trump supporter. Cool, right? I might not agree with them politically, but that's fine. That's cool. If that's what they want to do, if that's who they want to be, then I'm fine with it, right? And at least they had the courage to actually say what they thought or what they believed, right? I also see, again, as I said, now is kind of football time in America. And, we're getting down close to the Super Bowl. So, there's only a few teams left in it. In fact, the Super Bowl might be over by the time this airs. I don't know, right? Because I record them in advance. But in our neighborhood, again, on game day or different things like that, sometimes I will see other flags that are flown. So Oakland, well, they're not in Oakland anymore, but Las Vegas Raiders, it's hard for me to say that now because they just moved. Somebody right down the road is also an LA Rams supporter, because I saw a flag out in front of their house today because we're still in the playoffs. And so they have a Whose House, Rams House flag flying in front of them. A couple of the other houses in the neighborhood, which is interesting, that are side by side. One of the houses had an Ohio State flag. The other one had a University of Michigan flag out front of it. So it's interesting because, again, if you're in America, or the University of Michigan and Ohio State University, those are two universities, big universities here in the United States. Those are rival colleges, right? So it's interesting that, again, here you have an Ohio State Buckeye and you've got a Michigan Wolverine living right next to each other, and they want each other to know that, hey, I root for the other team, right? But so I've been talking about flags, right? And what does this have to do with what we usually talk about? Is what the fact is, and as I told you before, we're all a little different, and it's okay. It is cool that we are all different, because imagine if we were all exactly the same. How boring would life actually be? That'd be like, going in to get an ice cream cone, and the only option is vanilla. Or maybe you only have vanilla and chocolate as the options. How boring would life be if all you had was vanilla, or all you had was chocolate, or all you had was vanilla or chocolate, right? Some of us like other flavors like mint chocolate chip or Rocky Road or Chunky Monkey, or whatever. The list goes on and on about all of the different kinds of ice cream that you could get, and we enjoy that, and it's okay. If I happen to like, I like cookies and cream, which is a flavor as well. If I happen to like cookies and cream, you happen to like strawberry or chocolate, is it cool? Can we still be friends, even if maybe I prefer cookies and cream and you prefer chocolate? Well, I hope so, right? I hope that we can all be different and yet still get along with, like, and love each other, knowing that we all have differences, right? Just because I happen to root for the Los Angeles Rams and maybe you like the New York Giants, can we still be friends? I hope we can be, right? Just because we're different doesn't mean that we have to hate on each other. We can still love each other and have our differences. Because honestly, how fun would it be, going to a sporting event if you couldn't give your friend grief, because they like the other team, right? Because there's always a little rivalry and some fun, kind of going in there as well. And again, it's all done in fun. It's not done in hate, sort of a thing. But life is much richer. It's much more full when we are all allowed to be ourselves, to be who we are, different as well. Now, one of the reasons why I was thinking about this whole idea of flags is one of the shows that my wife and I have been watching. In it, there's been a couple of episodes where they have shown depictions of what's called Pride Week, especially in the San Francisco area. So Pride Week, if you're not familiar with it, and there's usually a Pride parade, is, there are a lot of people that are, homosexual, lesbian, bisexual, queer, I'm trying to remember, LGBTQ, what everything stands for, but it's effectively people, right, that are maybe not heterosexual. And it is a celebration of being different and of having those sexual preferences, and an ability for people to come out. And usually they are hoisting flags, right? There are gay pride flags that are kind of rainbow color. because they want to celebrate who they are and share with the world and express themselves as who they are. And I think it's fabulous. In fact, I've seen some depictions of it. Maybe someday, this would actually be really fun for me, is go up to San Francisco during Pride Week and actually march with them. I mean, it looks like it would be one hell of a party and a lot of fun. Now, I don't happen to be that way sexually. Doesn't matter, right? I still love and like people who are not like me. That's okay. That's cool. We are all different, right? And so the fact if somebody is hoisting a gay pride flag, if they're hoisting an American flag, if they're hoisting, a Russian flag, whatever it happens to be, we can still like and love each other, even though we are different. Okay. Now, that's kind of the one thing that I wanted to talk about. The other is the fact that I see so many people that are afraid to be who they are because they are afraid that if other people knew who they really were or what they really liked, that other people wouldn't like them. Now, that's a very lonely and a sad place to be in life. In fact, again, one of the reasons why things like the pride parades come out is, for so long, and even still, unfortunately, in certain parts of the world, it can be very dangerous to admit that you're not heterosexual, right? Or that you're in a relationship with someone of the same sex or other things like that. It can literally, some places in the world, people still kill people who are different than them. Now, I think that's horrible, abhorrent. I don't understand it at all. But, because of that, again, it's an opportunity for people to express themselves, to come out of the closet. That's a term that we have here in the US, of coming out of the closet, right? Of actually expressing who you are and letting the world know who you really are. So again, the problem is in our world right now is, people get divided and they try to put people into teams. Hey, I'm on the vanilla side. I'm on the chocolate side. Which one are you on? Are you on the vanilla or the chocolate ice cream side? Well, does it matter? Does it matter? Do we have to be divisive? Do we have to pick teams? Do we have to fight against each other? Or is it all right to love people regardless of what team they might play on or which team they might root for? Okay. Now, where I'm coming back to is because a lot of people are spewing that bullshit out there in the world, people who like cookies and cream are worried to say they like cookies and cream because they're afraid if I say I like cookies and cream better than vanilla or chocolate, that people aren't going to like me. And so there's a lot of people in the world who don't admit or don't let other people know who they are because they're afraid people won't like them. They'll be cast out if people actually knew who they were. Now, what I'm here to tell you is everyone in the world feels that way. So if you are feeling that way, you are not alone. Everyone feels that way. Let me say that again. Everyone feels that way. Everyone in the world has something that they're a little embarrassed to let other people know about. Everyone. So what I will tell you is a lot of times the people who they look like they have all their shit together. They look like they're just like they got the perfect life. They don't have the perfect life, okay? Half the time they're pretending to be something that they are not, right? Because they're afraid if people find out, they will not be liked, okay? So in fact, back to the show that I was talking about before, it's interesting. One of the characters in there is like this really macho actor, okay? Heartthrob, the person that all the women are like, oh, he's so gorgeous, right? And so he's like an action, tough, macho kind of guy. And so again, right, all the women go to see his movies because they think he's so beautiful, so handsome, right? And the fact is, he's actually gay. Okay. But he has to hide the fact that he's gay and living with his partner who he loves, right? Because he's afraid that if he comes out and people find out that he's actually gay, he'll get fired as an actor. He won't get to do these jobs anymore, right? And again, that's a fictional TV show, but this has happened so many times actually in the acting world, right? In fact, for so long, people who were gay had to hide the fact that they were gay, because if people found out that they were, they would literally get kicked out of Hollywood at the time. Now, it's not that way now, but it used to be that way, right? And so, again, what I'm telling you is, if you're sitting here and you're afraid that you aren't being who you are and you want to be a little different, maybe you want to color your hair, maybe you want to get a tattoo or a nose ring, I don't know, right? Maybe you like underwater basket weaving and you're afraid that everybody's going to make fun of you for that. Maybe you like cookies and cream ice cream instead, right? Or maybe you like, I don't know, rum raisin or praline or whatever, right? But you're afraid that that's not what your friends actually like and that they will judge you if you let them know that. Well, here's something else that you probably should know. Regardless of what you do, there are going to be people in this world who do not like you. Regardless of what you do in this world, there are going to be people who do not like you. Okay? There's going to be people who judge you, regardless of what you do. So why spend your life pretending you're somebody that you're not when people still aren't going to like you for pretending? Why not instead just be who you actually are? Okay? Now, in fact, I was kind of messaging or doing comments back and forth with one of the people that I know who is somebody that I respect and admire, because she is someone who is just herself. She wears neon colors. She's always doing kind of crazy stuff, has loud clothes on that she's doing, but she's always having a great time. And I love her. I love her for who she is. I love for how happy she is. I love for the example that she is showing to me, that it's okay to be me, right? And we were kind of going back and forth, and I said, I made some comment about, I appreciate your example. And she kind of messaged back and said, oh, well, thanks. I had no idea, right? I'm just being me. And the point kind of came up in it is, how freeing is it when you don't give a damn what anybody else thinks? How freeing is it just to be yourself and to not care what anybody else thinks, right? Until you actually get to that point, you can't really feel the true joy and freedom that comes from. Now, as she said that to me, it reminded me, right? My mind always goes different places when I have things like this come up. And I remember, many years ago, I had a business meeting up at Microsoft. And so I had to go up to Seattle, fly up to Seattle. And because it was a meeting on the Microsoft campus, they literally have like a whole taxi service that's just cars for Microsoft. So you come into a meeting and a car from Microsoft will pick you up and take you to your meeting that you have on their campus, or at least that's what happened to me. And so I remember I was in the car, and I always love talking to Uber, Lyft drivers, taxi drivers, kind of finding out their stories, because I find that so much of the time they are just fascinating people. You might think that they have kind of an ordinary job, but they have an amazing job, because imagine all the people they get to talk to, all the people who ride in their cars at different points. And so I remember this lady who picked me up, and she was a little older. And, in fact, she was in her 60s. She'd retired from whatever she was doing before. I can't remember what she was, if she was a teacher or something else before. And she retired and then went to work just driving, people around for Microsoft as kind of a retirement job. And I remember her telling me, I love being over 60. Now, when she said that, okay, again, here's a woman who says, I love being over 60 to me publicly, right? Because I was always taught, right? A woman is always 29 or 39, right? They're never older than that, right? And you never ask a woman her age. That was what my mother taught me was polite, right? You never ask a woman her age. So here I was in the back of this car, and this woman volunteers to me. She says, I love being over 60. And I said, why? Why do you love being over 60? And she said, you know what? Because as quote unquote old people, okay, now 60, 65, that isn't that old. But again, on a high-tech company, campus like Microsoft, where most of the average age was probably 20 something, she probably seemed ancient to these 20-year-olds, right? She wasn't ancient to me. She was younger than my dad at the time. But, she said, I love being over 60. I love being considered old. Why? Because I can say whatever I want to say. And even if I say something crazy, people give me the benefit of the doubt and say, oh, she's just old. And I thought that is just beautiful, right? Because she was so happy. She was so free. She didn't care what people said. She was just honest and said whatever she wanted to say that maybe when she was in her 30s, she wouldn't feel comfortable saying. But she lived enough of life, and she knew that, you know what, I'm going to kind of get a hall pass, and I'm going to get to say whatever I want to say. And if people don't like it, they're just going to kind of discount it and go, oh, she's just an old, crazy woman, right? Well, what if we could all be old, crazy women and just say what we, be who we are, say what we want to say. And if people think we're crazy, then that's just fine with us. Because as I told you before, regardless of what you're trying to do or who you're trying to be, there will be some people in the world who will judge you. There will be some people in the world who don't like what you do. That's okay. But if you are yourself, what you're going to find is the people who really like you, who really love you, are going to love you even more. And you don't have any of the guilt and shame that goes along with trying to pretend that you're somebody who you're not. So you might as well get rid of all that guilt and shame and just let your freak flag fly, whatever that happens to be, right? Again, I'm different than a lot of people. I like to play the guitar. Some people don't like that, right? I get online and research crazy stuff like the different flags that I shared with you, right? One of my favorite things to do is we watch a lot of movies that are based on true stories. And so we'll watch the movie, we get entertained from it, I learn something, and then I hop online and I actually do research and find out, well, okay, what was actually true in the movie and what was not, right? Because I just love learning things. Some people don't, right? I like to wear hats. Some people don't, right? In fact, I got told once from this lady that said, I don't trust men that wear hats. I don't trust men that wear hats. Okay, that goes to another episode where we've talked about before. She has some probably trauma with a man that wore a hat at some point in her life, and she's taking it out on all men that wear hats. But anyway, I think I'm a nice guy. I like to wear hats. I wear hats. In fact, here you go. Take it off. I still have a head of hair up there. And it's funny that many years ago, one of my bosses said, you know what, Jason, if you just let your hair grow out, you wouldn't have to wear those hats. I like wearing hats. I keep my hair short, right? That's something that's different about me. Now, maybe you like it, maybe you don't. It doesn't matter, right? Because as I said before, can't we all just get along? Can't we all still like and love other people, even though they're different? So, if you're somebody that's into underwater basket weaving, if you like to play video games, if you're, I met a guy once who collected IBM punch cards. Okay, most of you probably have no clue what the hell an IBM punch card is. but that was his thing. That was his hobby. That's what he did, right? If you collect stamps or coins, or, you're a live action role playing, a LARPer, somebody that does that or does Renaissance fairs or whatever, just be you. Just be happy. Do the things that you love to do. And again, even if you're embarrassed to maybe share it, because I know sometimes, we live through trauma. We have some things that maybe make us who we are. We have some experiences that maybe we're embarrassed to let people know about. I've seen this a lot with people maybe who were molested as children, either physically or sexually. They're embarrassed to share that. They don't want to share that. Or people who maybe had addictive behaviors to drug or alcohol. They don't want people to know about that. But here's what I do know. And this was another kind of impetus for me doing this podcast today. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and we were actually recording another episode that you'll hear in a little bit. And we were talking about how, we each have our own voice. I was born in Boise, Idaho, to the parents that I was born to. I grew up and lived in the family that I did. I've had different experiences, lived certain places in the world, had certain jobs that I've had, have certain hobbies or likes or dislikes. I am the only person in the world who is like me. You are the only person in the world who is like you, right? It's like there's 7 billion different flavors of ice cream in this world. I mean, again, how cool is that, right? Instead of just having chocolate and vanilla, we have 7 billion different flags. We have 7 billion different kinds of ice cream. How cool is that, right? But here's the kicker. Most of us are afraid to share our story. Most of us are afraid to open our mouth. We feel like we're just ordinary people that nobody cares about. Well, what I will tell you in my world travels and my years of living, some of the most fascinating people that I have ever met in the world, some of the people that are the most fascinating people I have ever met in the world, some of the people who are having the biggest impact in the world to the people around them are those ordinary people that don't think they have anything to share. And what I will tell you is only you can share your story. Only you can say things in the way that you say them. And here's the real big responsibility that comes with this. Only you can actually touch people in certain ways. So why not share it? Why not be that example to other people? Let your freak flag fly, be who you are, speak your truth, and be that example to other people. Because what I will guarantee you is there is someone in the world that is looking up to you. There is someone in the world who only you can help. I might say the exact same words that you do, but it's you that makes the difference. They listen to me and go, that's just some crazy dude. I don't get him, right? You say exactly the same thing and they go, oh my gosh, where have you been my whole life? Okay. So don't be afraid to be who you are. Don't be afraid to share that with other people. Yes, some people might not like you. Some people that, you thought liked you may not like you when they find out who you really are. It's okay, because other people will come into your life who do love you and like you more than those other people. And you're going to be feeling a lot more happy. You're going to be feeling a lot more joy the more authentic you actually are. So with that, that's what I want to share with you today. Let your freak flag fly. Say that say that fast a few times, right? Sorry, it's a poet in me that comes out. Yeah, there's another thing you probably didn't know about me, right? Is actually I'm a poet as well. So I love alliteration and some of those things like that. So with that, have a great week. Let your freak flag fly and just be you. Be uniquely you. With that, I'll catch you on the next episode. Have a great week. And that's a wrap. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Jamming with Jason. Keep on rocking in the audit world, and if you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Connect with me on LinkedIn and let me know what you enjoyed the most about the podcast, and you may even be featured on a future episode. When you're ready to turbocharge your leadership development, join the Briefing Leadership Program, where you get access to everything in one place and can interact directly with me in the group. If you'd like to earn continuing professional education for listening to today's episode, head on over to C-Risk Academy's video on-demand learning platform at ondemand.criskacademy.com. Not only do you get a CPE certificate, but you will also have access to hundreds of video on-demand learning opportunities. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are that of the individuals and not of their respective organizations.